our speaker tonight, it's on, is Mr. Edward Morgan, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about making a business in bees and about what he does, and I'll let him introduce all of his qualifications and everything that he's achieved himself, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of it. So, I know he's done a lot of speaking at GBA, where he's done your presentation on the Airbnb, which was one of the cool things that he does that I know of, and also has his honey company as well. So, with that, welcome Mr. Edward Morgan.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. This is an honor. This is like probably my third or fourth time speaking before a bee group. And this is actually the first time that I'm going to talk about how to make money, or how I make money in the bee business. And the reason I decided on this topic is because you just messed it up.
Clicker.
There.
Okay.
That's on you now. I'm way over here.
So can we just go back to where it was?
Yeah, man.
Let's just keep it right there.
All right.
All right. You messed me up.
Sorry, man.
All
I'm
right.
good doing that.
That's all right. So I've been keeping bees since 2018. How I started, well, before I get into that, I majored in hotel restaurant management. I used to manage restaurants for probably about 25 years, restaurants, food service in hospitals, and the last couple of jobs I had, I managed food service in retirement communities. And when I first started in the business, I loved it. As time went on, I began to hate it because of the long hours, little pay, weekends, nights, holidays, and I just got to a point where I was like, I hate this job. So, but that's the restaurant business. And when I started, one of the things I learned in college was, one of the things that always stuck with me is you gotta constantly update. And one of the professors at the college talked about Howard Johnson's, I guess, before my time, some of you may know, I guess at one point in time, Howard Johnson's was the hotel chain, right? So I was in college from 84 to 89. We talked about Howard Johnson's, how in the 80s, they were basically extinct, right? And in the 80s, it was Marriott. And my point for bringing this up is you gotta constantly update, and you gotta do your research and development. And so it always stuck with me. So when I finally got into bees, so my first time touching bees was June 25th, 2018. And the reason I did that is because my wife and I, we lived on 10 acres in Marietta for 12 years. And then we moved to California for 4 and Delaware for 4. But when we were in California, if you've ever lived in California, the homes are like side by side after living on 10 acres. So I said, if I ever get back, I'm gonna do some farming, which I had no clue. And I read something, so we finally come back in 2018, and I read something that says, if you wanna have a successful farm, you should have bees. So I was like, okay, didn't know a thing about bees. I went on Craigslist, and there was a guy selling bees out of his backyard. So I called him up, I'm like, hey, I wanna come over and check out the bees. He's like, come on over. So that was the day. We go in his backyard, this guy goes into the box, the Langstroth box, with no veil on. I'm looking at him like he's crazy, right? Like we always do. And then he hands me the bees. And I'm like, okay. And that's the picture. I was like, you gotta take a picture. So I bought the bees and put them in the backyard, and I thought that was gonna be it, right? So here's what happened. So when we were away in California and,
Once it's done,
huh?
you were done, right? In the backyard, you're done.
Yeah, I'm thinking that was it, right? So, I put them in the backyard, and while we were gone, we turned our house into an Airbnb. And so we already had one in Charlotte, and in Atlanta, we joined an Airbnb network group. So I had been in it for a couple of months, and I talked to this lady, her name is Deb Santos, the lady in the white shirt. We're actually doing a Airbnb network group presentation about how to manage Airbnbs in Atlanta. So she's the one, so I tell her, I'm like, hey, I just bought some bees. And she's like, okay, you need to do this new thing called Airbnb experiences. I'm like, I'm not doing that, right? Because I didn't, keep in mind, I just put them in the back, don't know a thing about bees. So she continued for at least 30 days, pushed me into doing it. Now, initially, the first 9 months, I'm self-taught because I didn't know any beekeepers. The guy that sold me the bees just sold me the bees, and there was no education after that. So I go to the library, I check out some books, I go on YouTube, and the first 9 months, that's how I learned beekeeping. And so she's like, you need to do this new thing called Airbnb experiences in Atlanta. And I was like, no, because I don't know anything about the bees. So she harassed me. Now, at that time, I've been married probably 22 years, somewhere around there. And I didn't need another woman telling me what to do. Right? Can you guys appreciate that? So I told her, I said, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. She called me on Sunday night, she was like, today is the last day to fill out the application. I said, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fill it out to shut your mouth so you leave me the hell alone. And that's what I told her, we laughed about it. So I actually filled the application out. I woke up Monday morning and I'm approved on a worldwide platform to discuss bees. Don't know anything about bees. So I go to the library, I'm checking out the books, I'm reading the books, I'm on YouTube trying to learn everything I can, and about 2 weeks later, somebody books it. Now, at the time, it was $25 per person. So I'm just explaining the relationship between humans and bees. And if I could find the queen, right? And you know, all the stuff inside the hive. So somebody books it, and I don't even have the veils for the people. So I go on Amazon, I buy some veils and some gloves and all that stuff. So I do it, and at the time it was called Beekeeper 101. And it takes off. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So I still have my full-time job. And so this thing just actually takes off. And so that was my introduction into bees. So that was the first time I made money from bees, was Airbnb experiences. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you, for the people who've never seen it before, I'm gonna show you what it looks like. Anybody here familiar with Airbnb experiences? So Airbnb, you know that everybody's familiar with the regular Airbnb, but what happens is they developed another stream of businesses. Believe it or not, they have like 8 or 9 different things you can do with Airbnb experiences, excursions, all that type of stuff. So what it is, I'm gonna go to the first one first. So this is my site on the experience, but these are the experiences in Metro Atlanta. If you notice, it's kind of blurry right here. So I got a 4.97 rating. So I have, out of a 5.0, I got a 4.97. And I know why I didn't get 5s. I know exactly why I didn't get them, right? Because when I first started, I just bought regular suits. And one day somebody shows up, and he's a pretty big guy. And I should have given him like a 2X, but I stuffed him in a 1X. And as I'm stuffing him in the 1X, I'm looking at him like, yeah, this ain't gonna be good. So he didn't say anything, but he's like this. He didn't get stung or anything, and, so afterwards, he gives me a 4. But he didn't say anything about being stuck, but I knew what it was. I could tell, right? So that day, I went on Amazon, I bought 3X, 4X, so we got rid of that. So we don't have problems with suits anymore. And then the second time I got a 4 that I know about is, we're in COVID, I'm still doing it. And I tell people, because prior to COVID, I allowed people to come in the house and use the restroom. But because we're in the middle of COVID, I'm still doing this. And I'm like, there are no restrooms. And they get upset because they can't use the restroom. I'm like, we're in the middle of COVID. You're not using the restroom. So they gave me a 4 for that. So the number 481, that's the number of people that have taken the time out to give me a review. But I've had more people than that. So if people book the event, if you book it, you can only leave a review. So if you come as a couple, you can only leave 1 review. So I've probably had well over 1,000 people. Once I found out about Metro Atlanta Beekeepers, I joined the group, and it was like eye-opening to me for all the people that were doing things. And I was like, oh. But I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want anybody to take my Airbnb, because I'm looking at it from the standpoint, there are people in here that could easily take it, but I didn't know what I didn't know. So if you look, these are all for the select number of dates that I have up here, April 1st through the 30th. These are the experiences that you can do in Metro Atlanta, but you can do it worldwide. So if you go somewhere, you're looking for something to do, that's what you can do. But for me, I am Atlanta Bee Experience, and here's what it looks like. So once I got the certification, so I'm a certified beekeeper, the next day I went from $25 to $50, right? I'm certified. And it didn't affect anything, but that's what I did. So I just wanted to show you that real quick. So if you go on there, I'm one of the top experiences in Metro Atlanta based on the rating and based on the number of reviews. And depending on the date that you put in, I always come up on the first page. So I got 10 people tomorrow. Let me show you one thing here. So, and you guys, somebody I know, so for a couple of years I was the only one. Some other lady has decided she's going to do it, which is fine. I think it's somewhere in Clarkston, somewhere in that Decatur, Clarkston area. I'm $50, she's $49. Right. But basically she does the same thing. But you can do whatever you want to do. So you can see it's $50 a person. These are the dates right here. But you can come up with whatever you want to do. So I'm gonna move on for that because there's other things that I can show you. So that's the first time I made money with bees. So then, as time went on, I found out you can do, there's pretty good money in bee removal. So I'm licensed to remove bees, right? So I just did that, what's today? Thursday? I did that Monday. So I had 3 apprentices with me because they want to become licensed bee removal operators. So they came along to assist. But there's great money in it. And here's the thing. I know some of you guys know him, but Bobby is the one that introduced me to it, for the people that know him. He did a presentation at Metro Atlanta Beekeepers. He was advising people to get in it, and I'm fresh and I'm new, and I'm like, well, maybe I can do that, right? Now, the difference is he went all over the state removing bees. I'm only concentrating in Metro Atlanta. The difference between the two of us, he could repair it. I can put a hole in it, but I can't repair it. So I don't do any repairs, but there's excellent money in it. So on my way over here today, I had 2 calls, got them lined up. I got one lined up for 1 o'clock tomorrow, and I got one lined up for 9 o'clock on Saturday. And I've already done one this week, and we got swarms all over the city. So it's great money in that. So my price range, like when I did that one, I quoted them $700 over the phone. Because it was easy, I cut that little square, put the light up there, they're sitting right there. I brought it down to $500, because it was easy, right? So I'm pretty fair with people. I tell them if it's small, based on, if I'm talking to you over the telephone, if the honeycomb is white, it's small, I may go down. It depends on how difficult it is to cut in there. If you're telling me they just moved in and they've been there a year and it's 6 feet tall or it's 10 feet tall and it's 3 feet wide, the price is going up to $1,500. I've had to do that a couple times. So that's that number 2. That's the second way that I make money, and that's kind of year round. It kind of tapers off in September, October. I think the last one I did in 2024 was in December, but I had one in December. So the third way that I make money year round is I got contracts. So I got schools, I volunteer at one public school in downtown Atlanta. I got 2 home schools, one in Canton and one in Milton. They pay very nicely on a monthly basis. I got bees on rooftops. So that picture on the rooftop right there is there's a business across the street from Waldorf Astoria. That's in Buckhead, and in the background you can see downtown Atlanta. So there's great money in the contract. So my contract works a little differently. Anybody, I'm sure some of you have heard of Be Downtown. So I'm a smaller version of Be Downtown. But I also contract with their competition. Has anyone heard of Alveoli? So Alveoli is the Canadian version of Be Downtown. They were based in Paris. The guy sold the business and now is based in Canada. So I am the Atlanta representative for all of their accounts in Atlanta. So I have my own accounts, schools, rooftops. I got park accounts, and the one on the right is I have 2 golf courses. That particular location right there, I have 20 beehives on. They pay me $2,000 a month, and they write the check every 6 months. So each account is different. It's based on, I base the price on how far do I have to travel, that's one, how many hives, and the type of hives that you want. And if you're gonna be side by side with me and I'm teaching you beekeeping as I'm doing hive inspections, or if I just got free reign and I'm rolling in and rolling out. Just last week, I got an account in Rome for 9 beehives, and here's the crazy thing. It's for a billionaire. I can't tell you who it is, but I had to sign an NDA, right? And they're writing a nice check, but they got 9 hives. And so they had hives there, they were kind of ratty. Once I found out who it was, I was like, I should have charged a little bit more, right? But that's okay, I'm satisfied with what I got. But, you know, some of the equipment was old, so I was like, hey man, we may need to order some different things. He was like, oh, we can order whatever you need. I'm like, great. So we went into the shed, they had 2 flow hives sitting there, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna use that. But we're gonna get some of the top of the line stuff before it's all said and done. I'm like, we need this, this, and this. And then all he says, just tell them what we need, we can get it. Perfect. So the prices range from $300 a month to $2,700 a month. It just depends on how many hives, distance, and what's involved in that. But I got bees from, around 285, probably a 100-mile radius. So I got them on farms. I go as far up as, I can't even think of the name of the town now, but it's above Lula. So I go all the way up there, and then Buckhead, downtown, Chateau Elan area, Bogart, Lithonia. Anybody know what Whitesburg is? Whitesburg is on the other side of Douglasville, down there, somewhere down there. Anyway, that's how far I go. So everything is based on distance, because I put a lot of miles on my truck. So, what number is that? That's number 3. So that's the third way that I make money with bees. And let me back up. So, and the reason I put this together is because when I started, this is what I should have started with. When I started in bees, a lot of people, at least 4 or 5 people told me there's no money in beekeeping. That's why I wanted to make that Howard Johnson's reference. I don't know. When I started, I didn't know. But people were telling me there's no money in beekeeping. And the reason I put the Howard Johnson thing is just because you didn't make any money with it doesn't mean I can't make any money. And I figured it out, right? Contracts, honey, bee removal, Airbnb. So we're on,
So I have a question.
yeah.
So with your contracts, are you just keeping the bees alive and giving them honey? Like, how does it work?
No, so I do hive inspection. I go twice a month.
Right.
I'm there to make sure, depending on the season, I treat with oxalic acid. Each client is different. Some of them I tell them to buy the Apivar, because I use Apivar. I have a oxalic machine, so I use that. We're making sure you got the queen and everybody's doing what they need to do. We're adding the supers. Everything that needs to be done in the hive inspection, that's what I do, right? So I went to the golf course today where we have 20 hives. But we actually put supers on that last week of February. We put supers on because it was kind of warm. The boxes were just right. I was like, we early, we good, right? Here's the other thing, because they got plenty of money, right? Each client is different. So they got plenty of money, and one day this client says to me, have you seen this new thing called Bettercomb? I'm like, no, I haven't seen it. So he was like, I'm gonna buy some, we're gonna try it. So we did it last year. They filled that thing up within 3 to 4 weeks. And we were like, oh, but anybody familiar with Bettercomb? So Bettercomb is synthetic wax, and it's already built out. It's not like the Flow Hive. It's synthetic wax, and you can buy it where you can insert it yourself, or you can buy it already in the frames. I should have brought some in. I got some on the truck. So the thing is, it's $12.50 a frame. It's $12.50 a frame. So he bought like 80 frames. I'm like, perfect. So we put them in there. We go in there today. They're already halfway filled up, and we're in March. We're in March. So I'm like, perfect, but you gotta have a lot of bees. So we put the Bettercomb on certain, some of them are double deep, some of them are deeps and mediums, and we put a deep or a medium on, just depending, right? But we went in there today, looking perfect. And I'm like, hey man, we're gonna be good. We still got another 4 months, right? So that's what I do. So I manage it for them to make sure that they get the honey. Now, each location is different. So the golf courses, their main thing is they want to prove that, because they use a lot of chemicals. So their thing is they want to prove that you can have bees and honey on the golf course. But these particular golf courses don't use a lot of chemicals. The offset is they get the honey, right? And so they get to give it to the members of the club. But the people love the fact that we got honeybees on there. So everybody's doing it for different things. The rooftop bee contracts, have you ever walked in the office building and it says LEED certified? So they get some type of credit for having bees on the rooftop or on the property. So everybody's a little different. So on the farms, they want, they want to pollinate their fruits and vegetables. So that's what I do. So now, here's the crazy thing. So swarm box sales. Let me tell you what that's about. And again, I'm driving because I'm driving all over the place. I'm constantly thinking, right? So I do a bee removal last year, maybe 2 years ago, with the same guy that called me today and said there are bees in the box. So I do a bee removal at his house. He pays me nicely. And I said, hey man, what if we put this bee box up here, this swarm box, we charge you $75 for the box. And I'm gonna come back every year. And if bees go in it next year, I'll charge you $75 for the maintenance. But they didn't go in your house. The guy called me on the way over today. He said, there's bees. I baited it 2 weeks ago. He said, there's bees in that box. Okay. I'm looking at it from the standpoint, you owe me another $75. And I got the bees, right? So, that's my new thing is, if I do a bee removal, and 9 times out of 10, they say yes, because it's cheaper to put them in the box than to cut into that wall, right? If you're smart enough, you'll do that, and it works. So I sell those, they're $75. I just hang it up there, and if I'm in the area, I just pop in, check it, I'm there 2 minutes, go. And I don't charge you until bees roll in. So I told them I'll be there sometime this weekend, ready to collect my 75. But I also sell nukes, right? That nuke sale is great, right? So I sell nukes, I sell swarm boxes. So we're on number 5, so that's how I make money. But remember, somebody told me there's no money in beekeeping. But I figured it out.
That's a good question.
Yes,
You
sir.
said you're licensed. You have to be licensed in each county, or can you?
License to do what?
To do,
Bee removal?
say bee removal,
And
okay?
you gotta be licensed by the state.
Just the state, not each county.
The county's not involved in that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but you have to, they started it, for the people that don't know. 2 years ago, anybody could do bee removal. But something happened between the pest control industry and beekeeping. I don't know, have all the particulars. There's plenty of people that know, but I don't know. All I know is I was in the second class for the license, right? So I got the license, and I'm on the state site for bee removal, so sometimes people call me because they went on Department of Agriculture. I'm on that site, because once you become licensed, you're on the state site for bee removal. And then I'm on Georgia Beekeepers Association. And 2 years ago, I paid for the advertisement, because, Georgia Beekeepers has always been at the top. I got the second spot, paid for the advertisement, so sometimes people, they go to that site. So if they don't use them, they call me. So that's number 5. I sell queens. That's easy money. I just go in a box, pull a queen out, sell it, $45, easy, right? I'm not at the point of, one of the things I got somebody that used to work for one of those huge bee companies. He said he worked there for 20 plus years. He said he used to make thousands of, he's coming to my house to show me how to grab. It's like, by the time I leave, you'll have it. Because I've tried it the last couple of years. I didn't get it. I didn't do something right. But he said, by the time I leave, you're gonna have it. So I'm like, perfect. So he's gonna show me how to grab. But right now, how I sell queens, if somebody calls and says, I need a queen, I just go in the box and pull it out, and it'll make another. Right? That's what I do. Honey. So so when I first started, I put the bees in the backyard. Where I live, there are thousands of people that drive by every day. And so probably the first maybe 3 or 4 months, I'm working in the backyard, and I said, you know what? People are nosy. I'm gonna move these bees to the front yard, right? So I started off with one, and then it morphed into, I probably have about 80 boxes in my front yard. All right? So what happens is, and at the time, when I first moved them out there, I was still working a full-time job. I had chickens and goats. And then things just got chaotic, and I was like, and I'm a one-man show. Let me also say that I'm a one-man show. So I put a sign in the front yard that says fresh eggs, local honey, and people drop in every day. The phone has rung 3 times since I've been here. They're probably looking for honey. But the phone rings all day for honey. And I hadn't taken the sign down for eggs, and people still calling for eggs. They're really calling now because of the so I had to let the chickens go. At one point, I had 100 chickens. I had 6 goats. My plan was, so I actually quit my job in 2023. I don't want to advise anybody to do it the way I did it, but I got to the point where, right after COVID, 1 week I worked 90 hours for this company. I only got paid for 40. The second week I worked 80, I only got paid for 40. And so I just gave them 90 hours of free labor, but I couldn't do any of this. And I was pissed. And so I've always learned that, don't come to the table with complaints, come with some solutions. So I pulled the administrator of the facility, the district manager, and I said, listen, I just worked all these hours. I got 2 solutions. Put a sign out front saying we're hiring. And then I told the district manager, you need to hire a chef, let him manage the kitchen. And they didn't take me seriously. So I went home and I said, I'm done. So I sat down. I said, well, if I make this with the goats, I was going to rent the goats out. I'll sell the chicken eggs. I was selling chicken eggs at the time, $7 a dozen. I probably had a list of 40 or 50 people in my phone still in there. I can text out, I got 10 dozen eggs. They'll come and get them within 24 hours. And then the bees. But I wasn't doing all this. I was doing some of this. I was like, I'll make it. And then I also bought a sawmill. So here's the crazy thing. So I did all that, crunched the numbers, toss and turn all night, got up the next morning, went to work, turned in my notice, I'm done. Then I came home and told my wife. Now here's the crazy thing. That's why I said, don't do what I did.
Don't tell your wife.
So the reason I did it that way is because I know my wife. My wife had just been laid off 2 months prior, and she would have said, this is not the time to quit a job. We got 2 kids in college, we got bills. I didn't want to hear any of that. She wasn't talking me off the ledge. I was like, I'm done. I can't do it. I'm not doing it anymore. And she was a little hot. And I was like, listen, I don't have to ask anybody when I'm working 90 hours in a 2-week period over what I should. I don't have to ask anybody. I don't have to tell anybody. They're working me to death. And I quit. And guess what? I've been busy ever since. So I knew it was going to work just based on the things that I was doing. But I built that myself, probably, with the grace of God and some friends. Some of the contracts came through referrals, just being in the right place at the right time. That's what I do. It was one other thing I wanted to point out, but I just got sidetracked. So those are the ways that I make money in the bee. Oh, I know what it was. Who knows Don the Fat Bee Man? You know?
He's on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Don the Fat Bee Man is
Who's he at?
Don the Fat Bee Man lives in Lula. Been keeping bees for 50 plus years, right? And so when I quit my job, I was telling somebody I wanted to be a commercial beekeeper. They were like, oh, you need to go work on the Don. Now that was 2 years ago. At the time, he was still beekeeping. He's like 84. So his thing was, you gotta pay $500 to come learn under him while he sits in the chair and he tells you what to do, right? I'm like, whatever, but I wanted to learn it. He was like, nobody's gonna teach you beekeeping, nobody's gonna teach you commercial beekeeping, one, because you're competition, two, they don't have time, right? So I paid him the $500, I go to his house, so his house in Lula has, he probably had 100 hives there. So I had to work there a couple of weeks, and the first thing he asked me, he was like, he was like, you buy your equipment or you make it? And I said, well, I make it. I buy it used. He was like, oh, you ain't making any money. He's like, and I've never seen a sawmill. He was like, this is how you make money. So we go outside, he starts up the tractor, he puts a log on there, he slices it with the sawmill, and I'm like, wow. And then we put it on a table saw, a planer, we plane it, we cut it, and I'm like, oh, that's how you do that? So, and we made boxes. So I said, because remember I quit, the other thing I didn't tell you is I had a tree guy I had dropping logs in my yard because I was going to do firewood. Because I was like, I'm not going back to corporate, man. I'm doing it myself. So I was going to sell firewood. And I said, man, I got about 50 logs in my yard right now. He was like, to do what? I said, make firewood. He said, what? He said, that one log is worth over, I think he said $800-900. He said, you're going to chop that firewood, you're only going to get $200 or $300? And I'm like, oh. Went home and I went on the internet, and guess what? There's a company, anybody heard of Wood-Mizer?
Yeah.
Wood-Mizer is in Noonan. Went down there and bought a sawmill. And I bought a used planer. And here's the crazy thing about that. I bought a manual, because he had an automatic sawmill, but I bought a manual. That was 2 years ago, and I have not started it yet. It's just sitting in the yard. I don't have time, right? So anybody want to buy a sawmill, we can talk. But I'm not going to have time to do it. What I've realized now, and because what I do is I go to different conferences. I listen to a lot of different people, and one of the guys said, there was a commercial beekeeper, he was like, at one point I had 5,000 hives, but I worked every day, and nobody could build the equipment better than me. I made the equipment, and he's like, I just had to come to a realization that I need to buy it. And I've come to that realization, I'm just gonna buy it. I ain't got time to cut it, plane it, I ain't got the time, right? Because I'm all over the city as it is. So, but Don is not really doing it now. Oh, so the last part of that, so he had about 100 hives in Lula, then he had thousands of hives in Crawfordville. Anybody know where that is? So he had thousands of hives in Crawfordville. He's like, I need to see how you work here first before I take you there. He took me there, and I'm like, whoa. So we go down a dirt road in Lula. They're back up in the woods. There's thousands of hives. And I'm like, oh, this is how you do it? So when I work hives, I just wear a veil. I don't wear the whole suit. So it was nothing for me to get stung. But he was like, no, you can't go out here like that. This is different, right? And I'm talking about when they're shaking packages, it's just bees everywhere. He's like, no, you gotta be fully clothed, taped up on the ankles and the arms. And once I got out there, I was like, I could see why. But I learned a lot from him. And then, I did it, and here's the thing, so you work for free, right? So I had to work for free, but I learned all types of stuff that I wouldn't have gotten from anybody else. And so, I said all that to say, I learned under him, well, I forgot what I was gonna say. But it was a great, so I worked for free, and then I got busy, and I had to tell him, so I was going twice a week, and then I broke it down to once a week, and then I just had to call him one day. I was like, I can't come anymore, right? So whatever I didn't learn, I just got to learn it on my own. But I learned a ton of information from him. So he's in Lula. So the last one is speaking engagements. Like I get paid for doing things like that. So my ultimate goal is to become I'm studying to be a journeyman now. So hopefully in September at the GBA, I'm going to take the test for a journeyman. And my ultimate goal is to become a master beekeeper. So that's my ultimate goal. And I still have ideas for 9, 10, 11, and 12, but I can't tell you that. I don't want you to take my idea. So, just because somebody said you can't make money, there's ways to make money, you gotta figure it out. But all I can tell you is this. My wife was pissed when I quit. You know, I was like, I already had made up my mind. I was like, you know what, I'll spend 3 months in the doghouse. I don't care, but I'm not going back to work. But it worked out. And my kids, when I first told them I was gonna buy bees, they laughed at me, right? My wife and kids, they said, oh, you're just gonna get stung, you don't know what the hell you're doing, right? I'm like, yeah, okay, all right, whatever. My friends looked at me like, what the hell are you doing, right? So every time I take my kids and wife out to dinner, I said, the bees pay for that. And they said, do you have to tell us? Every time, I'm gonna tell you, every time, because you didn't see it. So, that's my presentation. If you got some questions, I'll be more than happy to answer it. But there's a lot of money out in the bees, and I didn't even talk about, you know, the truckloads of bees for pollination, and, you know, I mean, I got all types of plans in my head, but it's gonna take some time, and I'm still trying to find that one person that I can rely on, because I've had different businesses. I used to have a barbecue truck and stuff like that, but people don't wanna work, and my thing is, I'm going to work. But I don't have a lot of faith in people showing up on time and doing what they need to do. So I just do it myself. There's no stress. I have no stress. None. None. I had one client out of the 2 years I've been doing it, you know, and I knew I shouldn't have taken the contract from the beginning. I gave her a price and she wanted the nickel and dime me, and I was like, eventually we just parted ways, but everybody else, we're perfect. And I'm producing honey for them. Everything that they needed me to do, that's what I do. So I have no stress. I don't have employees calling me 2, 3 in the morning. I ain't coming to work. I set my own hours. I take vacation when I want to. I can make as much money as I want to as long as I'm working. And when I leave here, I may go back and may swarm, who knows? So, yes, sir.
How many hours a week do you work?
It varies.
Because, I mean, you got a lot of endeavors.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe 50, 60 hours, maybe a little bit more than that, but I get paid for whatever I'm doing, I get paid for it, right? But I've been to Costa Rica already this year. I just took off. I didn't have to tell anybody. I just booked a ticket. I'm going to the Jamboree. I don't have to tell anybody. I'm just going. I'm going to GBA in September. I went to Nabi in January, and I'm going to Apomondia in Copenhagen for a week. My wife said she can't go. I said, why not? I don't have the time. Too bad. I'm going for a week. I'll send you pictures. Right? Because when she was unemployed, I said, you know, because my wife is an engineer, and I said, if you come work with me, you can direct the guys on the sawmill. Nah, I don't want to do that. Okay. She goes back to work. She only gets 3 weeks of vacation. I've already had 2 this year so far, right? But I'm going to Copenhagen. The conference is like 3 or 4 days, but I'm gonna be there for a week. I'm gonna travel by myself, and I'm okay with that. I'll send you pictures.
Be paid for that.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
This is not a question. When you do bee extractions, are they always honeybees that get in structures?
Say that one more time.
Are they always honeybees that get in structures, or do you
No.
extract?
Sometimes you get yellow jackets. Now, everyone. So here's the thing, because you know, I have never seen it before, but I guess I want to say like August, September. You know, everybody knows that the yellow jackets normally build their nests in the ground. But I found out there's a subspecies that builds them in the structures. So, I will remove them, but mainly it's just honeybees. But you'll get yellow jackets every once in a while. So, anything else? So, out of all the people I've seen you before, maybe at GBA. Ray. You're Ray, right?
Yeah.
I've seen you, I think, you've been at GBA, right? I've seen
Once.
you somewhere, I don't know where.
Thanks, sir. Very interesting.
Okay. All right, so that's my presentation.
so much. You're welcome. Certainly appreciate that, and hopefully some of you guys will find some of those things to do and do that. Let me get my notes here. We've got a little bit of